Good morning and welcome to MDV The Blueprint. I am Michael Delavella, and today we are going to talk everything windows. We're going to talk glass. We're going to talk installation. We're going to talk. By the time this podcast is over, you're going to be an expert on making a choice in purchasing windows. And we are going to talk to a dear friend of mine, Kenny Johnson of Carriage Windows and Doors. So without further ado,
Hello,
Kenny.
Michael.
Hello.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Can I call you KJ throughout this?
Yeah, KJ, Kenny J.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you. I mean,
like
we've
that.
known each other since college. So
Yeah, I like that.
whatever you feel best.
So Kenny, let's talk windows.
Yeah.
I know how well versed you are, so this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah,
it may be our only adult conversation we've ever had in our life.
Yeah, could be. Yes, but I'm ready for it.
Okay.
So hammer away. I'm here to discuss, really educate people out there on what to look for when buying windows. There's a lot of different options. Just like when you go buy a car.
Sure.
You can go buy a car for $150,000 or more. You
So
can go buy a car for $20,000. So
KJ, tell me about your background in windows and what you're doing now.
sure. So I started in this business a long, long time ago, probably 27, 28 years ago. And I was hired by a company out of Canada. And I was hired to sell engineered hardware for Windows. And so I did that for 3 years. And then I got hired by the company that told me about that interview. And that company, Stern & Company, was a manufacturer's repping agency of just window and door components.
Components.
So
Okay.
I would call on every manufacturer in the Midwest. Our company called on them. So I'd sell them the window locks, the tilt latches, the balances, the screen wire that makes your screens, the framing material, vinyl extrusions, butels, glass, fenestration software to help you manufacture windows, equipment. So anything and everything that you could imagine that goes into the manufacturing of a window or a door, Stern & Company sold. And I did that and was there for 26 years.
So is Stern & Company selling to all different types of windows, brands of windows?
Yes.
So you traveled and probably saw tons of different factories.
Tons of factories.
And we don't want to bash any windows or
No.
pull for any windows. So you did see how all this stuff.
I've been in so many window plants. It's unreal.
And
Hundreds.
We're not going to touch on this yet, but glass plants. You ever been in glass plants?
I sold for a company that manufactured glass, and they're actually located right here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Fantastic. We're going to go back to that. You're selling parts. You're traveling the country. You're learning all about windows. But you're not at this point selling to the general public.
No.
Windows.
No, I'm not.
When do you get into this business?
I got into that because a friend of mine who was working at a plant, he was the plant manager.
Okay.
And since he worked at the plant, he would get windows and doors and he would buy them directly because he worked there at this plant, and he would sell them to family members. And he was a plant manager. And so in my business, I dealt with him quite a bit. So he became one of my very good friends in the business. And over the years, I'd say, hey, could you put windows and doors in for my mom? Or you could put them in maybe for my brother, Mark. Or could you put windows in? My best friend needs windows. And so I would give him the leads because I wasn't doing that. I was just selling him the window parts. He said, sure. And so he had a little side business and he started it, and it was called Carriage Windows and Doors. And he started it a long time ago, way before I came on. And so when I left Stern & Company, which was 3 years ago, I said, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? Right? Well, I basically said, maybe I can take Carriage and Windows and Doors to another level and help other people by word of mouth, and Instagram and Facebook, and get out there and help people get really good windows and doors at a very fair price.
Carriage Windows and Doors.
Yes.
You carry how many lines?
I carry 3 lines.
Okay. Tell me about your lines.
So basically what we carry 2 vinyl lines. One of the brands is made in Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay.
And one of the brands is made in Hamilton, Ohio. So they're window manufacturing plants. They make vinyl windows. And then the other manufacturer that I use is Sun Windows. And Sun Windows is located down in Owensboro, Kentucky. Family-run business, 3rd generation, excellent products. But that's where I offer both because I kind of need the high-end wood window for certain applications. And then I have the vinyl lines for my mid-range window programs that probably I'd say 80% of the windows now in the market or some sort of vinyl window. That's primarily what's sold right now.
Is fiberglass the other window composite that's...
Yeah, there's a window composite. Fiberglass windows do exist. That's the framing material that's used. And so what they do also now is you can buy a fiberglass or you can buy a vinyl window and they'll insert fiberglass into the extrusions for extra durability. And so that's something that you can also get.
So am I correct that your vinyl window, I think is it the Patriot line?
No, my line of windows I sell for Vinyl Max and a company called Polaris.
Okay, my bad.
Yes.
So you do not have the vinyl window that has the aluminum cladding. That's not yours.
I do. That's the window that comes from Sun Windows.
From Sun Windows.
Yes.
But I thought that was a wood window.
It is not. It is. They offer both.
Offer both.
Yes.
Isn't that overkill? I mean, that seems like, a vinyl product is not going to be maintenance free, and then they put this other layer.
Well, you got to remember, aluminum is not on the exterior. That's going to last a long, long time. Okay, and then you have vinyl on the inside. The big deal is the price point. Okay, so that particular window, the vinyl aluminum clad window, is a price point window. You can offer that in a casement window and in a picture window, and that window is going to be a lot less expensive if you were to have a wood aluminum clad window. So when you look at the big boys in the industry, the very large fabricators that you all hear about when you go into Home Depot and Lowe's, we all know them. There's Pella's, there's Anderson, very, very good companies. And Sun Windows would compete with those styles of windows that are wood aluminum clad.
So what I know about Sun Windows is fantastic product. What Sun Windows, I would say, is their philosophy is all their money that, let's say, that you would put into advertising. They don't do that.
They do not.
They put everything in the quality of that window and the production of that window.
Absolutely.
And the window sells itself based on that reputation, but it is not one that you're going to see a commercial on.
Never.
You're not going to see it advertised in stores, but that's their thing is we're giving you a killer product.
Yes.
And you can compete or beat all those equal windows.
It's, in my opinion, it's just as good, if not better, of a product than some of the large wood fabricators that are out there.
That's all the ratings I've read on it.
But everything that you just said is absolutely true. And it kind of, their philosophy is a lot like mine. You're not going to see me like at the billboards at the Indians games.
And you should. You should.
Well, that costs a lot of money. And it costs a lot of money to have buildings and advertise on television and have billboards throughout the whole city. And the cost per lead, it costs you quite a bit of cash to do that. So,
do you actually, like, if I'm looking for windows and somebody gives me your card, call KJ, are you coming out to my house?
Yeah, it's me.
Tell me what that process looks like.
Process is pretty simple. I call you, I set up a meeting with you. I bring some sample windows literature. I measure the windows primarily just to get a size of the opening. And then I go over with you the different options that you want. You might have an opening that might have a double hung in it, but maybe you want a casement window. A casement window is a window that you crank and it goes out. Double hung windows tilt in and you can clean them easily. And sliders go back and forth. And so then, I might look at the decor of the house and say, hey, most of the times you're going to get a white window, but have you ever thought of maybe getting a wood grain window on the inside? Which there's wood grain laminates now that go on vinyl windows. You can get exterior paint on a vinyl window now, which lasts up to 30 years. So you can actually take vinyl, put paint on it, they actually bake it in an oven, and that paint is on the vinyl and makes for a very, very decent color. And you can get those now. So the options now, 20 years ago when I first started selling window and door parts, even longer, you could only get a white window or you could get a white window.
Mm-hmm.
And now the options with
Crazy.
all the technology,
Crazy.
gluing wood grain laminates to vinyl on the interior, with getting a painted black or laminated window on the exterior, all of that exists now. It all exists. And then I get into the price point. You talk about price points. Casement windows are more than double hung windows, for example, because of the hardware that's involved in it. Then you just sit down with a customer, and for me, I'm not a high pressure sales guy.
I would never expect it.
I sit down with you. I ask you have any questions. I go home. I send you your quote. It includes the tax, the install, the haul away, the permits, anything that's needed, and that's your cost. And I let you decide and call me if you have any questions. But I'm not going to sit in your house and say, hey, you buy 2 today, I'm going to give you 4 free.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, and it's not in my wheelhouse.
It's not your style.
And it's not my style.
It's not your style.
So if you want a really good product at a very fair price that I guarantee I'm going to beat most people, truck and ladder guys, they exist out there.
Sure.
Truck and ladder guy is going to go into Home Depot and buy a window off the rack maybe and make it fit. And he's going to put it in. So he's the installer and the sales guy. He might be able to beat me on price. But all the other folks that you see on the billboards in town, that they're not going to be able to beat me. I have a warehouse. I'm the sales guy. I own the company. That's it.
Is this a fact? A good window with a bad installation equals a bad window.
It's absolutely true statement. And that's the problem where a lot of people run into all the time. A window has to be measured properly by your installers. It has to be declared whether it's going to be a full rip out or if you're putting inserts in. Okay. You have to cap the window and caulk it properly. And if you don't do all those things, you're going to have leakers and you're going to have a really bad experience. It's absolutely true. So with my installers, they work for me and they're licensed and bonded. And that's the thing. We get the permits. We do everything that needs to be done to have a proper install. So.
And you trust them, which is so big. I have unfortunately known a lot of clients, friends that have went down this road, called companies, and windows are always good, but it's when the people show up and they don't know their ass from an elbow
Yeah.
on what they're doing.
Yes.
And they install it and it's rickety and you got the airflow. They didn't do anything right. But yeah, that to me is if you have the right contractors, you're golden. And I could never, ever see you being that high pressure, typical salesperson trying to give you, I can finance this for you for the next 90 days. I mean, I'm sure. Do you have financing packages?
We don't do that either.
Okay.
No. I mean, you can use a credit card with us.
Okay.
You can. But I'm just not that big enough to get into where, 24 months, same as cash. I don't offer that. With the pricing that we offer you, you should be able to use a credit card or write a check or pay cash and be fine. If I'm saving you 30%, that says something. So
tell me if you agree with this statement. You don't have to agree with me.
Okay.
People typically fall in love with a window before they fall in love with a window company. And what I mean by that is an educated person is going to do some research on windows, and they are going to get caught up with the NFRC numbers without really, they're going to get caught up in that number. And I think the numbers are good, but for me, it's all about you factor and solar heat gain coefficient, or SHGC, I think they call it. Do you follow
Solar
me?
heat gain is big. U values and R values of windows
Yep.
are big.
Air leakage.
Air leakage on a in the DP rating on a window is, important. Design pressure is what that stands for. So, as you go through the United States, there are certain windows that you have to purchase because of your climate,
The
where you
climate.
live. So you have to have at least a DP 50 window down in certain areas in the South. You have to have DP 60 windows, which are Cat 5 hurricane. You have to have those with laminated glass in certain areas of Florida on the ocean. So those are, of course, going to be very expensive. They have laminated glass, which is very expensive. So depending on where you live is going to determine also what you want to find in a window. Okay, you don't need a DP 50 window living in Rocky River, Ohio. You might want to consider that if you live right on the water, but that's the big thing. And you mentioned glass, low E glass.
Is all this glass type, low E
Mm-hmm.
argon glass, is that a standard, or are those options that you purchase per window?
They are options, but myself, I only sell low E argon gassed double strength glass for my IGs, which stands for insulated glass. You can get triple insulated glass. There used to be a product called Heat Mirror, which had a film in between the two pieces of glass. You have a variety of different spacer systems. So you have glass, and then you have spacer, and then you have glass. That's what makes an IG. And then you fill that IG with argon gas. You can do a krypton gas.
Superman gas.
You can do argon krypton mixture of glass. And so some of the times when you're in the home and sales guy, let's say A, comes in and says, you really need a triple pane glass with argon and krypton gas filled. And you can ask him the question, well, what's my return on investment on something like that? If you're going to charge me an extra $400 per window and I have 16 windows in my house, I can tell you right now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're not going to be able to recuperate that.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so.
No.
It's complete overkill.
It's complete overkill, in my opinion. Yes.
In argon, if I'm not mistaken, invisible gas, can't see it, can't smell it.
Correct.
It's in there. It is helping with insulation and noise reduction in a window.
A little bit of noise reduction, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
It does. When argon gas goes into the IG unit, the air comes out, the argon goes in, and that's what acts as your insulation factor. What helps the most in noise reduction is the thickness of your glass. So you have single strength glass or double strength glass. Okay. I only sell double strength glass. And the reason I do is single strength glass has a tendency to crack a lot easier. But for me, the double strength glass, it weighs a lot more, but it certainly gives you a lot more quiet of a home. And that's all I sell. So I only sell double strength glass. I only sell argon filled. And then the spacer system, which is the system that connects the two pieces of glass together. You can get super spacer, you can get Duralite, you can get Intercept, you can get aluminum box spacer. There's a wide variety of different spacer systems out there that adhere the two pieces of glass together in order to make an insulated piece of glass. And so there's a lot of theories on that as well, on which one's the best, because one is warm edge and one's made out of metal and the other one's made out of extruded silicone. And the other one has got butyl and it's, goes through the oven and all those different types of things. And my opinion on spacers is that they're all pretty much going to give you a very, very good insulated glass unit. I wouldn't be caught up in all the hype of, if you don't have super spacer in your IG unit, you're buying the worst piece of glass ever. You're not.
And that goes back to my point where I was saying that people are getting caught up with a window and all these things that they're measuring that you really don't need and are overkill.
Yeah.
Completely. So let's touch base on low E glass. The way, just tell me if I'm wrong here. The way I understand that is the way you explain the glass. The low E would go, okay, if you got 4 parts of window, outside,
surface 1, 2, 3, and 4.
3 and 4, those
Yes.
surfaces. So for where we're at, our part of the country, Ohio, Michigan, we're trying to keep the heat in our house, correct? So that low E coating would go on the
surface 3.
Surface 3.
However, you have to remember that in this particular area, you're also trying to, in the summertime, keep your AC in your house. So yeah, it acts kind of both ways when you're looking at that type of thing. And now they're actually getting into triple pane glass, which I mentioned once before.
It just seems
and the
like
triple
so much.
pane, you can have low E on 2 surfaces of glass to get a better R value and a better U value in your IG unit.
If you do, besides the low E's typically on one side, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If I did it on 2, pane 2,
it changes the game.
It changes
exactly what it does. I don't know exactly what it does, but it does change the game.
But what I would imagine is it the UV lighting that you're letting in a window? The more you have of the low E glass, it's less sunlight and ultraviolet lights,
correct,
that come through your home.
Come through and stain your carpet.
Stain your carpet.
Not stain
bleach your wood floors.
Correct.
Could ruin a painting.
Yes.
If you are on certain areas, I would imagine that a homeowner would have a possibility, like if the back of their home was just getting pummeled by the sun all day, you would want something like that.
I have several customers. Yes. The answer is yes. There's certain customers where they tell me they're getting blasted on this side of the house from the west or whatever. And I say, why don't we just put triples maybe on that
side
of the home?
Is it called 270 low E and 366
correct.
Low E?
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And so that is what that's a typical number that you get from someone who makes float glass. So those numbers will be 366 and 270 is what a certain float glass manufacturer brand names their coating. They call their coating 366.
Gotcha.
Now, the one thing you have to remember, and I think we were going to touch base on this, is remember when you go into the home, a lot of people think that all these window manufacturers make their own glass.
This part blows my mind. Did not know this until the other day.
The majority of window manufacturers in the country, I don't know what the percentage is, but a wide variety of them do not manufacture their own glass. So you'll go into a store and you'll see the big boys, the P's and the A's with the beginning of their names. They don't manufacture their own glass.
They're buying the same glass?
They're buying the exact same glass because a company will sell float glass to somebody and they cut it and use a spacer system and run it through an oven and have washers, and they have their own glass lines like a Vinyl Max. Vinyl Max makes and manufactures their own glass, and then they put it in their vinyl frames. A very large manufacturer buys from a company who all they do is make glass, and they ship it on a truck, and they pop the square glasses, and they put it in their frames, and they're done. They don't want to mess around with manufacturing their own glass. So, in other words, one of the companies that I sell for with vinyl, they don't manufacture their own glass. There's a manufacturing glass company right here in Cleveland, Ohio. They make the glass, they put it on a truck, they ship it down the street, they take the glass off, put it in their vinyl frames, and they glaze it, and they're done. And so it's a matter of if you want to, as a manufacturer, be responsible for manufacturing your own glass. It's a very scientific thing. It's dangerous. You're working with glass. There's a lot to it. And some people want to focus on what they do well, and that's make windows. And it's really two aspects of manufacturing, right? You're manufacturing the window frames and you're manufacturing the glass that goes into window frames. And so that's kind of as my background being selling window and door parts for that many years. I really got expertise in the glass and how it's made, and it's pretty interesting.
Have you ever visited any glass manufacturers and one of the bigger ones throughout the Cardinal Glass?
Cardinal. I've actually never been into a Cardinal IG manufacturing facility. Part of that is because they won't let you in.
Okay.
And part of it is they won't let you in. But I tell you what, they make very, very good glass.
Yeah.
And they have now grown their business to where they're selling to very small manufacturers. They're selling insulated glass to small manufacturers, and they're selling insulated glass to very, very large manufacturers. And they're also selling their very large sheets of low E glass to manufacturers who are cutting it and throwing it through the washing machine and making their own IG. So Cardinal is someone who's expanded their business and diversified their business into doing both. So it's interesting.
So now that we have completely, in my opinion, blown the doors off of the secrets of the window companies, that we're all playing kind of with the same deck of cards.
Absolutely.
With glass.
Yes.
What then, me as a consumer, what am I looking for besides price to pick my window?
Well, you don't want to overspend, right? I always say some of a house that I just sold the other day in Rocky River on the water, beautiful home, older home. The inside of the home had some rooms with some aesthetics that just wouldn't look fantastic with a vinyl window. So I sold them a wood window, and I had that wood window painted and stained in certain rooms. So there was a library that had dark wood. So I matched that wood in that particular room. And then the other rooms, I had the wood painted by a good friend of ours, Mark Fusco, who came in and painted after the fact and touched everything up, and it looked beautiful. And so that particular house, expensive home, the decor, the aesthetics, it really needed a high-end wood window, right? You go into another home, it can utilize a vinyl window that will still look fantastic. It'll look beautiful, but they wanted their outside window to be bronze. So what did I do? I sold them a vinyl window. Okay, on the inside, it's white. The exterior is bronze, and that fit their needs for a window that is less expensive than a wood aluminum clad window, right? And so I think you kind of got to look at what your needs, a good, better, best situation maybe for your home, and what you want and what you're looking for. Some people are going to say, you know what? I need new windows in this home so I can sell it, because what's in here right now, it's keeping me from selling my home. They say that that's so horrible and they're bad and people can notice. I do a really good vinyl window. I install it right, and it can help that person sell their home so that they can move on with their lives to a home that they want, or let's say they're moving. That could be something that happens as well to people. So
how important, Kenny, are warranties with a window company or a window installer?
Warranties, I think, are important, but a lot of the times, it's as good as the paper that it's written on sometimes. I have a lifetime warranty on my window. So if something goes wrong, you're not calling a 1-800 number or a service person. You're calling Ken Johnson. I'll either go out there myself, see what's wrong, or fix it. Or I have my service guys go out and fix it, and they take care of it. So if something happened where it's leaking, maybe it wasn't caulked properly, or there was a high wind that blew the flashing off, or whatever the case, you call me, I'm going to get it taken care of. And so warranties on windows, as far as parts, you do have to sometimes read the fine line.
Yep.
Because that might cover your parts, but it's not going to cover your labor. Okay.
And that's the confusion when people are saying lifetime warranty.
Right.
Read the fine print.
Right. Because a lot of the times the glass is only covered up to a certain amount of time.
Couple years, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, on a new construction window, on a low-end new construction window, good luck. It might be a year. So you really have to watch out for that. And you got to remember when you're replacing new construction windows, keep in mind when you go to buy a home, a new construction home. New construction homes are great. You move in there and everything's fresh and everything's fantastic. And the builder puts the money in what? They put the money in the bathrooms and in the kitchens, right? What do they skimp on?
The windows.
They skimp on windows.
It's been like that forever.
Yeah, and because of your background.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, even today, running around with buyers and showing them and pointing things out, I'm shocked that people are not into window. Like, they're not asking what kind of windows is this. They're not thinking that. I think that they have been, and a lot of that is due to some of the new construction, because you're just seeing a nice new vinyl window. You really don't know who the manufacturer is, but it works. But something I always point out, I know a great window from a bad window, and I know when the windows are going to have problems. But to me, I'm really into the windows, and I know what I would be looking for. What do you think truly the life expectancy is of wood window as opposed to a vinyl window that you're replacing? How long should I expect that I'm going to have this window?
I think the framing of the window is going to last you a very long time. I really do. Whether it's fiberglass or vinyl or wood. Wood can rot. That's the biggest problem that you have in certain areas.
Yes.
When you have a wood aluminum plank. Yes.
Big problem here.
And you have a change of seasons in Ohio. So you have expansion and contraction of wood. It swells and then it shrinks, and then it swells and then it shrinks. And when those types of things happen, you can get rot in wood windows. You're not going to have that in fiberglass. You're not going to have that in vinyl. Okay. The biggest thing that happens, longevity of windows, is the insulated glass. You'll get what's called a seal failure. When you get that seal failure, you're going to know. And the reason you're going to know is that low-E coating is then the argon gas goes, the seal breaks.
Looks like there's almost condensation.
Cloudy condensation.
Looks like a dirty window.
It looks like a dirty window.
Right.
And so what will happen is that air has now, it's transferred through the sealant that's bad, and it gets in between that, and it starts to oxidize the coating that is on that glass. And that's why it starts to look cloudy. And that's why it fails. That's why you see condensation. And so the IG seal has failed, and that's where you're going to have that replaced.
Now, Kenny, this is very common.
Oh, yeah.
It happens all the time.
All the time.
It could happen multiple times in someone's home.
Sure.
And when that happens, people may think, oh, I got to get a new window. You don't have to get a new window.
No, they don't.
You're gonna get that glass.
You're going to take the glazing bead off of the sash of the window. It's going to snap off, and you're going to use it's basically a glazing cutter, and you're going to deglaze that glass out of the frame. And a lot of times they'll use a glazing tape at the manufacturing plant, or they'll use a bead of silicone to glaze their IG unit to the frame of the sash. And then when they put that in there and deglaze it, you're just going to take that IG out, and you're going to pop a new piece of insulated glass in its place. You're going to snap the glazing bead back on, and you're right back in business. Now, some manufacturers, like in this particular case with a vinyl window, they're just going to send you the vinyl sash, and you're going to pop that old bad sash out, and you put the new one in.
Sash in.
Yeah, it's very easy and a lot easier for my guys who are out fixing them. Yeah, in the service department.
But I'm amazed how it happens all the time. It's so common. And then, if people don't understand this and are not listening to this podcast for the explanation, they just, oh, that's a bad window. It's not. It's so common. Every window this happens to. I've seen it in every window out there.
Absolutely. With manufacturing of glass comes with some worker error. Mm-hmm. There comes with some, maybe the glass when it was put through the roller press. Maybe there was water on that sealant and it created a pocket where it went bad. And you're not going to have this over, immediately, but over time, you'll have that. And that's where a good insulated glass unit, though, doesn't matter what the spacer is. If it's made properly, you should get 20 to 30 years out of a nice insulated piece of glass. Absolutely.
So would you, when you're saying 20, 30 years for that,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't say that those replacement windows were going to go 20. Are we talking windows or just that?
Just the
glass.
glass. Yeah,
Okay.
just the glass. You should get 30 years.
I would think so.
Yeah. I
would
mean, I
think
live
so.
in a house right now that I built it, and it has wood aluminum clad windows,
Okay.
and they're from one of the larger brands, and they're a wood aluminum clad, and I've been there 17 years, and knock on wood, I haven't had one problem with the insulated glass unit in any of my home. Now, the house is right across the street from the same builder. They used a new construction vinyl window for
Mm-hmm.
those, and they are having issues with their insulated glass units.
I've seen it happen. I know people in my neighborhood. I've never had an issue with my windows.
Mm-hmm.
They're vinyl. Never had a seal failure.
Right.
Everything works perfect, but there are houses that multiple seal failures. You just don't know. So on a wood window, there is maintenance that goes into a wood window, because I have seen inside the glass, or ones that have removable parts of the windows, you could see flaking of the paint on the
sure.
seal that happens quite a bit. And that's from the sun.
That's
and
from the
snow.
sun. That's from moisture.
Yeah,
That's
beating
from
down
relative humidity in your home. And then it's humid. And so you might have a window that's in, let's say, your bathroom that creates quite a bit of condensation. And that's going to sit on the sill. Well, you do that for 20 years. Yeah.
It's going to rot.
It's going to rot. Your glass, your paint's going to probably peel. So yeah, with a wood window, there probably is a little bit more maintenance. And maybe you change the decor of a room and you sand them down and you repaint them. Yeah. And that comes along with it. But
on those vinyl clad wood windows on the exterior, is it a good idea? Do you have to maintain the outside of those with caulk around anything? Don't need to do that?
No. I'll tell you what's significant and what I've seen over the last 30 years in the business is just how far they've really come with the quality that they put into the different options that you have when buying a window.
Okay.
I mean, when I first started, like I said, we were making white vinyl windows that weren't even welded. They were just cut at angles and put together with corner gussets and screwed together. That's how they were made, with boot glazing and different things. It's come a long way. And I could say that when I say come a long way, I mean just the advancements of different silicones and sealants and products that go into the manufacturing of these windows is just increasingly gotten better over the years. And so when you're buying a window from primarily most of these vinyl window guys, it's a pretty solid window. It really is. The difference is going to be, I'm not going to sell it to you for $1,500 an opening. I'm going to sell you that same window for $850 to $900 an opening. Installed. Taxes out the door, yes. And that's how I'm going to be different, because I don't have to pay a sales guy. I don't have to pay for the huge building and the advertising and the billboards and the president and everyone down the line. I have a warehouse. I have 2 install crews. I have myself. And that is how you cut costs when you're selling windows to the public.
And again, if I can say it again, I've known you for a long time, and I know your character. I know how passionate you are about life and your friends, and you wouldn't put anybody in a bad situation.
Couldn't do it.
It's not in your nature.
No.
You are going to do what's best for that consumer, that buyer. You have to. But it's not, it's just who you are.
Yeah, I think,
you're always tell it like it is.
I pretty
You
much
don't
do.
sugarcoat
No.
anything.
Sometimes it's probably got me in trouble.
Sure it has.
But I'd say for the most part, if you ask my best friends, you're one of them.
Yeah, you've always.
I mean, you talk about your blueprint, right? Your blueprint in life. I sell windows. I sell them honestly. I was brought up properly. My dad was a sales guy. My brother's a sales guy. I'm going to do right by the customer. And so I couldn't sleep at night knowing that I went in to see Mr. and Mrs. Jones and I overcharged them $600 for each window. But I go into certain places and I save them $3,000 to $4,000 and like, KJ, how could you do that? And I lay it all on the line. I just say, this is how, just what I just said.
Yeah, and like I said, me knowing you and knowing how you are, you were. This is the way it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, a white double hung window really shouldn't cost a customer any more than $800 to $850. A white vinyl window with low E glass and maybe get some grids if you like grids between the glass.
Do you have anything you want to talk about the window you brought in?
No, this is a Vinyl Max window. This is one of my suppliers. It's a welded frame. It's a welded sash. It has vent stops.
See, now it looks like it has, for lack of hardier
hardware.
The hardware seems a lot more substantial than some of the other hardware that I've seen.
Yeah, and I think over the years we talked about getting better hardware. They've done a really good job of making better hardware and actually making it look better too. It's more aesthetically pleasing.
And that is.
You wouldn't think it, but this particular lock right here is actually made out of plastic.
Really?
Yeah, this particular one.
Interesting.
So you can't tell. But what's nice about this plastic lock is under testing, it actually outperforms a metal lock.
See, the metal locks to me sometimes stick a lot. They'll miss.
Yeah. And this particular locking system, it has the tilt latches that are built into the rail.
Uh-huh.
And so when you take these right here and squeeze them, it retracts the tilt latch, and that's how you tilt the window in to clean it.
And yeah, they've come a long way, man.
Oh, yeah. And then when you're done, you just close it, shut it, and lock it.
Long way.
Yeah. And so what's nice about this particular window is you don't see the tilt latches that are over here. Generally on a window, you'll see those. This particular style or design doesn't have that. And a lot of companies, I think the big thing that people are going to see too is that most manufacturers will have a good, better, best program. Vinyl Max does. Another company that I sell for, Polaris, they have a good, better, best. And yeah, and really the majority of those differences have to do with hardware and have to do with the glass packages that go into those frames. You got to remember, Deli, that a window, what is a window? It's got a frame and it's got glass in it. And the glass probably represents about, I mean, when you look at a window, it represents the majority of the window is glass. And so my biggest thing is I sell a really, really good glass package that I think fits most people's needs. But if you want a little bit more, I'm not going to tell you not to buy it. And I'm not going to say it's super overkill or you're making a bad decision. I'm going to say, you know what? It's an option that you can get. It'd be like maybe getting extra horsepower in your vehicle when you go into one and you don't want a V6, maybe you pop in a V8. If that's what you want, we have it too. I'm never not going to sell you something you need. And if you're really convinced you need it, I'm going to have it for you.
So, Kenny, I couldn't wait to ask you this. Again, I've known you a long time.
Sure.
We've been friends. Full disclosure, we're fraternity brothers.
Yes.
I cannot wait to hear, and I'm sure I can imagine some of it. What is your blueprint for life?
Oh, boy. Let's see. My blueprint, I've thought about this because you asked me what it was going to be prior to. And I did some thinking about it. And I think my blueprint has always been, take care of your friends, take care of your family, be a really good person. I think I can say that I do my best to do that in life and in business. But over the past few years, losing my mom, losing my father, my sister being sick with cancer, she lives with me now, and we take care of each other. It's not like I take care of her, but it's nice for her to be with me, especially right now with all that she's going through. And I got to say, it's kind of nice. I'm proud to be her older brother, and I'll be going down to see my other brother and watch my nephew for a week while he's out of town, and that's going to be really fun for me. And so just the closest that I have with my friends and my family, I think just be a good, solid human being is my blueprint. And I think over time, if you do the right thing and I think good things show up. If you do the right thing in business, my old partners always said, you know what? Don't worry about commission dollars you're going to make. Just do the right thing for your customers, and money's going to show up in your pocket. I think if you do the right thing for your friends and your family, good things will come back to you tenfold. And I'd have to say that so far it's worked out pretty darn good. So I don't have any complaints as far as, you're probably not going to hear a whole lot of people dislike me.
I don't know.
They're not going to go behind my back and say, oh, that KJ did this, or he screwed me over on that, or I just don't do it. I'm by no means perfect, but
close.
No, I wouldn't even say that. But I think you know me enough that we have fun. I think you got to have fun.
Kenny, you're that guy that everybody loves. Like I said, you're beloved. You are at any kind of function. Everybody gravitates to you because you're so much fun. People love talking to you. You always have something great to say. You're hysterical.
Well, I try to be funny.
You got to
make people laugh in this world,
and that's something that I love always being with you, because you always put me in a great mood. You make me laugh.
Thanks, man.
You're such a great friend. I could call you any time, day or night, and I know you'd pick up the phone, and I needed something, you would do that. And I know this is how you run your business. Yes. So anybody that's thinking of buying windows, I would tell you to call Ken Johnson. He will do right by you. You will get a fantastic product, and you will be very happy.
Absolutely.
And you're going to give him referrals, because you'll want all your friends to have the same experience. Yeah. So also, like, you give out there's a great experience being a friend of yours or being in the same room with you. People have that, and I imagine that's exactly what you're giving in business.
Well, I don't immediately go into the house and lay all my stuff down on the line.
Sure.
I'm more like just kind of like I'm sitting here with you. I go in and see these people, and one of the guys the other day said, listen, KJ, I just want to thank you for just coming into the house and being a dude.
Yeah.
And sitting here and talking to me about, you answer my questions. But he's like, the best thing that I had is that I thought that you were going to be here for 3 hours and you were going to hard sell me.
But that's what it is.
People hear that all the time about the other guys. And that's the turnoff of having people over to try to sell you windows and doors, is they don't want that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of happy that they still do that, because they get kicked out of the house. And when I go over, I generally can say, and this is not being braggadocious, but I'd say that I probably close at an 80% rating.
Oh.
And it's only because of my price, and it's because I'm not forcing my product down their throat, and I am not by any means a high pressure sales guy.
And it's relatability.
Yes.
Is everything.
Yes.
And that's what you have.
Thank you.
That's what you have. So, Kenny, tell us, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, since I'm not going to be on all these, you can go to the Carriage website.
Okay.
We have a very nice website. So you can go to www.carriagewindows.com. I am on Facebook.
Okay.
So I have a Facebook page. And you can catch me on the MDV Blueprint podcast.
Yes, you can.
Which is going to be big, I think, for me.
100%.
And this has been very, very good for me to be on, educate people, and I appreciate you inviting me, man.
I knew this was going to be fun. And
It was.
I enjoy this, and I could
Awesome.
sit there and talk shop forever. So thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
You got it.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure to follow us on social media at MDV The Blueprint on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We post a ton of great content. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you never miss out on an episode. Thanks again, and see you next time.